You're watching Essence Live. I'm Senior Relationships and Lifestyle Editor Charlie Penn. All right, y'all, today is Valentine's Day, which means it's a day of love, a day of embraces, and a day of making it hot between the sheets, right? Well, if your sex life is in need of some help, we got you. Our expert panel is here to answer all of your uncomfortable and taboo questions about sex. Joining me is life coach and author of Don't Be a Wife to a Boyfriend, 10 Lessons I Learned While I Was Single, Shonda White, sexologist Michelle Hope, and creator of UntilIGetMarried.com, Josen Cummings. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here. Ready to talk about sex?
Yes.
All right, panelists. We've got some really interesting questions, so let's get into it. Our first question is, you guys ready? My fiance really wants oral sex, okay? But I don't want to do it, and I don't know that I ever will. Should we still get married? Shonda, you can take this one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Should they go down the altar?
Yes, but obviously they need to have a conversation. I'm one of those that believes that you need to talk. If you can't talk openly with your partner about any and everything, then you probably shouldn't be getting married in the first place. So
Facts.
you can still get married. I really don't know why they jumped to should I still get married when it's like, have you even had this conversation with your partner? Like, you know, does he know that you don't want to, or is there a reason why you don't? Like, did you have a bad experience with it? You know, like we need to know like more information, and your partner needs to know like why you feel like that, because if you get married and that's something that you are like, I don't do it, and he doesn't know, it could potentially set you up.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's some conversation that needs to happen here. Michelle, what do you think?
Well, I think a couple things. When it comes to sex, all things are negotiable. And I think that when you're walking into a marriage, understanding that sex is not at the highest priority, because let's face it, honey, after a few years, the sex gonna get boring.
Okay.
But you have to have other things that can sustain your intimacy levels and your connections. Now, when it comes to giving oral sex, let's face it, there may be something that you really, really like sexually, like that your partner's not into.
It happens.
So going back to the ideas of negotiation, what are you willing to negotiate? In other words, okay, I might not want to do this always, but I would be willing to do it on X, Y, and Z accords, right?
Right, that's really great advice. But you know, I really want to know what the man thinks. Josen, what do you think?
I think the negotiations sounds like a good idea in theory, but there has to be a great way to bring it up where that conversation seems very organic.
How so?
Just if I want to have a serious conversation with you about your unwillingness to give me oral sex, I think that conversation needs to have the right tone in order to really resonate and be effective. I also think that it's something that maybe should not be talked about in the heat of the moment, right? So like when you guys are usually about to get hot and heavy and you think, oh, it's about to happen, and then it doesn't happen, and then you're like, oh, here we go again, and then you start an argument. That's not when it happens, right? But then pour some drinks, sit down, you know, split a bottle of wine, and just talk about those things.
So let's move on to our next question, you guys. You ready? We're heating things up here. My girl always calls me daddy during sex. Should I be worried? Josen, what are your thoughts on this? We're really gonna let you start this off.
No, you shouldn't be worried. That's nothing to worry about. Obviously, she has that's her thing. But I had written a post on my site, UntilIGetMarried.com, a long time ago about how like I became uncomfortable with like asking women to call me daddy, because then I was like, I might meet your father one day, that's gonna be weird. So, you know, you guys could maybe think of some other names. You know, there's other names that
like what?
That's hot right now.
Maddie. That's a good one.
Authority, though, if what she's really into is like some sort of authority figure, you know, and that's
so it's
like
role play.
It's a role play thing. I don't know, king.
Oh, I like
President.
Oh, okay, well, you know what?
You know, I'm just throwing it out there.
I like those options.
Captain, you know what I'm saying?
Let's see what else we have. My boyfriend finishes really fast during sex. Now that's a problem. Sometimes within the first minute. Ooh, how do I get him to last longer? Ooh, Michelle, what tips do you have for this? Let's go to the sexologist here.
Well, I think there's a few things. One, I don't I don't want to offend anybody here, but porn is a big problem in our bedrooms and in our relationships. Porn has kind of taken over. It's everywhere. It's really easily accessible to people, and a lot of people are getting exposure to porn a lot more than what they'd like to admit.
Makes sense.
So there's a couple things. One, there's a technique called edging that men can do.
What's that?
Where it's kind of like an exercise where you would want them to get aroused, and you're going through the sexual response cycle, and you get them to that plateau phase right before orgasm. And then right when a man feels like he's gonna orgasm, he wants to grab the base of his shaft and underneath the scrotum and kind of put some pressure there and stop whatever is happening for him to want to ejaculate, because you can teach the body to last longer in bed through a combination of masturbation and this process called edging. It can really help to prolongate a man's sustainability. That's one. Now, two, let's not just hop right into the pee. Okay?
Take it slow.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying porn always just gives us right to the action, genitals to genitals.
Boom.
But that's not how women warm up. It takes women about 15 to 20 minutes to get to the stage of plateau before they reach orgasm, and for men it's a lot quicker. So what I might suggest is a little bit more foreplay. Bring back the finger popping. Pay attention to those boobies.
I love it.
Take your time before we go into actual penile
I agree.
vagina penetration, and that can really, really help.
I always say women are microwaves, right? I mean, women are oven, men are microwaves. So
Yeah.
I agree totally. All right, moving along. Our next question is, when I tell men I just want a sex buddy, they start acting weird. What gives? I thought men liked casual sex. Shonda, what are your thoughts here? Sex buddies. Let's talk about it.
Let's be real. There's a double standard out there, okay? Men can sleep around with women. They can have sex buddies, friend with benefits all day long. But I'm sorry, but if you're a girl and you're doing that, they're going to classify you as a garden tool a lot of times. And so the guys are probably feeling like, listen, I don't know why you just want a sex buddy. Like, how many sex buddies do you have? They could assume that you're doing this with different people. And also, guys are kind of like territorial sometimes, and so they don't want to feel like they're just your sex buddy. Like, they want to feel, I mean, obviously the guys that she's with, maybe they want a relationship, I don't know, but you know, obviously if you're just coming at them like, I just want a sex buddy, it kind of sets the tone like all you want is sex.
Right.
And guys don't, I think guys traditionally, they're okay if they say that.
Right, but they don't want you to.
They don't want to hear a woman saying that.
Doesn't look like he really wants to jump in here.
It takes away the power from the guy. And that's why some guys may be turned off from a woman saying that. And I'm not saying that I agree with that. I'm not saying that
You're just keeping it real for us.
men should feel that way. It's just that men want to oftentimes dictate the terms of the relationship. And therefore, when a woman puts it out there first, they're not, wait, what? I'm supposed to be the one who says this. And so I would also advise that woman that that's not somebody that she wants to get into a casual relationship with. Because that is a man that will continue to find ways to control the relationship or put the relationship on his terms, even if it's a casual one.
Got it. Okay, so we've heard from the fellow, we've heard from the ladies. I like both sides. Let's see what we have next. I want my husband and I to have a threesome with another man, not a woman. How do I convince my husband to get on board? Shonda, we'll start with you. Girl.
Well, so they can disagree with me, but listen, there's no other man coming, or no other woman, no other man coming up in my bedroom. Just point blank simple.
So you're just, no, we're not even gonna try to convince your man.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, we talked about, one of the things about being married is that you want to communicate to your husband and his ego. So for you to want to invite, I mean, I know it's trendy, and if that's what you do, to each its own, but for me, I feel like, you know, if I'm going to communicate to his ego, one of the things I want him to know is that he's my man, he's my king, whatever I'm calling him, you know what's going on. So I don't want another man to come in there and to defile our bedroom, because for me, I just don't think that's not anything that I would
So that
do.
wouldn't be your fantasy.
Yeah, it just wouldn't be. But if that's something she's wanting to do, obviously she's going to need to communicate that with him. Do I think he's going to go for it? Probably not, because, you know, I think a lot of men, from what I can tell, they're okay with threesomes if it's a female.
Well, let's ask one, because Josen, you're here. I mean, and I'm saying that to say this is definitely a question I need you to answer, because you have to speak for the fellas here. Because as women, if we want to go there, this is going to be a tricky subject.
I mean, if I'm speaking for the fellas, I think it's an easy answer. Just
really,
no, like that's not going to happen. I don't.
There is no easy.
I haven't had a conversation with a guy who has said like they want that to happen.
Right.
But let's take me out of the equation in terms of my own personal preferences and the preferences of the guys that I know. Your husband should know that you have that side of you,
desire,
or that desire in you. And I guess the way that you could go ahead and you could bring that up is just, one, do your research into that sort of lifestyle and kind of try to get some anecdotal evidence, some testimonials and things like that, things that you can gather.
Some facts.
Present him facts.
Okay.
Say, see, it isn't what you think it is.
Okay.
These other people have had a different experience. This is what, and maybe he will get on board after you go ahead and you do that, because again, you have to understand, most men who have an image of that sort of thing don't have a positive.
Right, it's not a fantasy
that sort
for
of
them.
thing. Right,
Right.
exactly. And they could have done something like that at some point in their life when they were in more of their reckless days or things like that. And once again, not a positive image that they have, right? So I think what the woman has to do in this situation is present it as as his wife.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, hey, baby, this is what I
understand
want
that.
from you?
Yeah.
Okay.
You are my husband. I am your wife. These are the ways that you have to present it. You can't present it the way, like, you know, you're watching some adult video and that goes down and, yo, that looks really interesting. Like, no,
Right.
that's a fantasy. That's not real. You know what I'm saying? So what are you really talking about?
Thank you all for that fantastic advice. Well, there it is, Essence Live fam. Hopefully these answers will help you and yours live your best sex life this Valentine's Day. Thank you to Shonda, Michelle, and Josen for that great advice. More Essence Live